So where did we stop in the last class? Can someone just tell me where we had stopped in the last class? What was the last topic taken? Okay, Article 360. All right. So I'm just done with emergency. I'm about to start the next topics, right? Okay. So financial emergency, is it over? I think I had explained, no, in the last class. We also had some very constructive discussions also centered around it. Right. Yes. Okay. All right. So let me ask you a few questions to refresh your memory then. What is the maximum duration up to which President's rule under Article 356 can continue to be in existence? Tell me. What is the maximum duration up to which Article 356 emergency can continue to be in operation? What is your answer? One year. Okay. 1 year மேல இருக்க முடியாதா? 3 years is the right answer. 3 years from what? Is it 3 years from the date of proclamation of emergency, or is it 3 years from That's very correct. 3 years from the approval of parliament. The answer is right. Once Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha has approved the proclamation of emergency, okay, Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, the first approval of emergency happens. What majority is used here? What majority is used for approving President's rule under Article 356? Is it a special majority that is used here? Simple. There is only one area where special majority will ever be used in the context of emergency provisions, and that is national emergency alone. Other than that, everywhere it is only simple majority. Sri Lakshmi, why are you saying special majority? I think I had made it as a point in the first class itself when I took emergency. There is only one area alone in the entire emergency provisions where special majority is required. That is for approving national emergency. Apart from that, everywhere it is only simple majority. So as soon as Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha approves, maximum period of up to 3 years, the emergency can carry on, not more than that. But there is a condition here. Up to first 1 year, there is no problem. Beyond this 1 year, if emergency has to continue, two conditions have to be satisfied. Do you remember what those conditions are? Do you remember what those conditions are? Approval of parliament. No. That is not a correct answer. Either EC should say no election can be held at the current situation, okay, and national emergency must be enforced. It's not either, it is both. National emergency is the reason why President's rule can be allowed to continue, extend even beyond a period of 1 year. Okay, 1 year. So two conditions. That is, national emergency must be in operation in India at that point of time. And in addition to that, election commission must give a certificate that it is not possible to conduct elections because the entire workforce are busy fighting war, focusing on national emergency. So hence, we are not in a position to conduct elections. So it is only on such conditions, President's rule can continue beyond this period of 1 year. So two conditions, all right? Okay. Let me ask you a question. President's rule under Article 356, emergency declared under Article 356 can impact sharing of revenues between center and states. Is it a correct statement? Emergency under Article 356 can impact the revenue distribution between center and states. Is it a right statement? Yes, not a correct answer. There is no impact on relationship. There is no relationship on any impact of revenue distribution or anything. Okay. But what if I ask you, Shivapriya, you have said yes. How can it be yes? See, once you understand the logic behind these emergency provisions, you will be clear about these kind of answers, questions. Emergency under Article 356. Can someone tell me what is the reason why Article 356 is kept in the Constitution? Why? Tell me why. Only during external emergency, that is the right answer. It is only during emergency declared under Article 352 because India is fighting a war. Central government is fighting a war. Hence, central government should have more resources to spend. It is for that purpose. State governments should not come and bother the center. Give me my Swachh Bharat money. Give me MGNREG's money. I have to pay my laborers. No, first buying Rafale aircraft is more important. That is why during emergency under Article 352, sharing of revenues between center and states will be affected, will be impacted. Yes, the purpose behind Article 356 is to check state governments, to ensure state governments obey the directions of the center. It is to allow for power transition. What do I mean by this? To allow for power transition. What do I mean by that? What does it mean? Yes, hung assembly basically. Correct. When the existing chief minister loses his support, somebody else has to now come and run the government until the elections is held. Okay. So for that smooth transition, somebody else, some other government authority has to now take over the administration of the state. It is for these purposes our constitution makers have kept Article 356 in the constitution. Right? So for these purposes, you don't have to impact center state distribution of revenues. It has no impact at all. Center state distribution of revenues has no impact at all. But tell me, where is the maximum impact seen? When you compare Article 352 emergency and 356 emergency, when you compare these two emergencies, what is the maximum impact that you find under Article 356? Do you find any impact on fundamental rights? Do you think a president's rule will have an impact on fundamental rights of the citizens? The AC would off பண்ணிடலாம். Off. அப்படியா? Okay, சரி போட்டு. Right. Okay. No impact on fundamental rights. Suspension of Council of Ministers. No. Okay. Yeah, it is basically legislative and executive competence is the area where maximum impact happens. Correct? Because you have legislative functions, executive functions. You have list 1, list 2, list 3. So you know about this distribution. Normal times, this is state list. In state list, who has the power of legislation? It is a state legislature, state executive. It is here where the maximum impact happens. Completely, federalism is destroyed in 1 minute, right? This is transferred into the hands of parliament. This is transferred into the hands of the union executive. So this is where the maximum impact, but impact on federal provisions, that's correct. The greatest impact is on federal provisions, not on fundamental rights. So, okay. Financial emergency declared under Article 360 will have an impact on center state distribution of revenue. Was it a correct statement? financial emergency declared under Article 360 has an impact on center state distribution of revenues. Will it be a correct statement? The answer is no, correct. No distribution, revenues will not be affected or anything. Okay, I think you're clear about it and we can proceed further. Okay. So, can somebody tell me, last question, when it comes to Article 356, use, misuse or abuse of Article 356, can someone tell me the names of the prominent case laws? If at all you have to write a mains answer next year, what are the important case laws with respect to use or abuse of Article 356? What was the Supreme Court's role? We have discussed in the last class. SR Bommai, that's correct. So one case. Anything else? Did we discuss anything else also? That is the second case. First case is not SR Bommai's. First case was something else. It was different. Kerala communist government. No. Vadava, DC Vadava is not related to, no, that is with respect to ordinance making powers. Did I discuss state of Rajasthan and others versus Union of India? Did we know case? Did I discuss in the last class? Oh no. Okay. Sorry, I don't know why I have not discussed it. Did I not discuss it? Not discussed. Okay. Well, all right. See, after 1952, the first instance of misuse of President's Article 356 happened in Kerala. We discussed about it. This happened in 1959, 1977, and 1980. Highly abusive nature of Article 356. 356 was completely violated. Did I discuss what happened in 1977 and 1980? What all happened? I think we have discussed. Yes. So, there was a change in power in the center. As soon as the central government came, they immediately dismissed the state governments in the various states. So, in 1977, Janata Party comes to power. And as soon as the Janata Party comes to power, it dismisses the Congress governments in various states, 9 states, in 9 different states. Rajasthan, West Bengal, Bihar, Himachal Pradesh, Orissa, Madhya Pradesh, and many other states, West Bengal, many other states, total of 9 states were affected by the Janata Party's action. So they go to the court. Okay, they go and file a case in the Supreme Court. That case is called as State of Rajasthan and Others versus Union of India. They are the aggrieved parties, right? Case is filed in Supreme Court. This is one landmark judgment because before this, during this period, whenever there was a government which was dismissed under Article 356, whenever these governments had approached the judiciary had taken a very consistent stand till then. The stand taken by judiciary is use of powers under Article 356 is not open to judicial review. We will not step into the correctness of presidential action under Article 356. That is a it's a political question. It's not a legal question. Whether the president is correct in imposing president's rule under Article 356 is not a question of law. It is a political question. So we should not be interfering into the domain of politics. Otherwise, our independent character will be destroyed. The Supreme Court was very cautious till then. But in 1977, when this incident happened, Supreme Court for the first time it said that it accepted the petition. It said that yes, Article 356 is open to judicial review. We will look into it. But we will not go into whether president's actions are correct or not. That is not something that we will look into. We will just look if it is, there should be some circumstance. Without any reason, a president should not have declared 356. There should be some grounds on which Article 356 should have been declared. If there is any ground, we will accept it as a correct way of using Article 356. That is why the action of Janata Party was actually upheld in this state of Rajasthan versus others. The court said Janata Party is correct. In the president's opinion, there was a situation. What was the situation? The president was correct in assuming that electorate had lost the support. The Congress ministries have lost the support of electorate. So president had some ground, some reason for using Article 356. So since there was a ground, we are satisfied. We will not go and look whether that ground is a correct ground or a wrong ground. We will have no role to play in that. All we will do is whether for no reason, just like that, president should not, next day he gets up in the morning, he should not actually take over the administration of a state. That should not happen. Some ground must be in existence. So it was a very, very narrow ground of judicial review. But a positive step was the Supreme Court opened up judicial review into these matters of use of Article 356. So this is state of Rajasthan and others of Union of India. That is, some circumstance should be in existence. But this was further taken ahead in S.R. Bommai versus Union of India. Another landmark judgment in 1994. This is where Supreme Court said that it is open to judicial review and we will look into the correctness of president's actions. And Supreme Court also gave a list of what are correct use of Article 356, what are wrongful use of Article 356, how Article 356 should be properly used. Can someone tell me? As per S.R. Bommai judgment, did we discuss about S.R. Bommai judgment last class? Did I tell you what are the rightful and wrongful use of Article 356 as per the judge's opinion in S.R. Bommai judgment? And did I tell you the checklist of process that has to be followed? S.R. Bommai judges, they had given a checklist of procedures that has to be first followed. Only after that, a dissolution of house can be done. I think I had given you all that, right? Rightful use, wrongful use. So if a state government is pursuing communal politics, yeah, that's correct. Proper use is anti-secular. Very good. So I think I have explained it to you. So these are some two case laws which are of prominence, which are important in the context of Article 356. All right, we'll stop here. I think we are done with revising things. I hope you are good with emergency. Can you proceed further? Can you proceed with the other aspects of center-state relations? Are you all clear, fine with emergency provisions? Okay. All right, so we'll proceed further. Hot water. Oh, okay. So today, in today's class, and did I explain to you about conflict areas? I think I have not explained, no? Conflict between center and states. How federalism had, did I explain to you about different eras of federalism? Did I explain to you something about that? Different eras of federalism, something of that sort? No, not yet. Okay, all right. So, you see, in India, if you take the period from 1950 onwards, the way how federalism had evolved in India, starting from independence, you can find different phases. Up to 2014, this is a, you can, within the span of 1950 to 2014, you can find three different phases. From 2014, it is a completely different phase. This is centralizing. Once again, we are back to a phase of single party dominance in the center. So this is from 2014 onwards. But before that, 1950 to 2014, this period you can actually categorize into three different eras. This is the first era of or this can also be said as an era of so this is the progress. Center slowly weakens. As center becomes weak, states become stronger and stronger in this federal scheme. Okay, so this is the kind of scheme that you can find out. This is from 1950 to 1966. From the time Indira Gandhi comes to power until 1990, it's a period of complete conflict for 25 years, quarter century, complete conflict, center and states. 1950 onwards, the center is destroyed in the struggle. Center becomes weaker, after which you will find local level regional leaders emerging. Regional politics becomes important because of so many reasons. Also added, and another reason why center becomes weak is also because of LPG reforms, which also takes place. So because of liberalization, we are moving away from the license Raj command kind of an economy. It's only in the command economy where the center is in a commanding heights. It's in a stronger position. But as the economy is getting liberalized because of the structural reforms that were undertaken, automatically the role of center becomes weaker, role of states gets strengthened. So this is the kind of a transformation that we actually find moving from 1950 to 2014. All right. So this is a period of intense interest for us. This is of importance for UPSC purposes. Okay. So, and also understand, judiciary does not work in a vacuum. Okay. Judiciary also works in a larger political context. So this is the larger political context. Do you think a judgment like SR Bommai could have come from judiciary in this period of time? That is, see, in this period of time when there's a complete center's dominance, as I told you, judiciary was reluctant to even entertain any petitions of misuse of Article 356. Supreme Court said that Article 356 is not open to judicial review. It was this period of time. Slowly, in this period, when there is a conflict between center and states, then Supreme Court decides states must also have some independent existence. So Supreme Court also becomes more daring in this conflict between center and states. Supreme Court tries to play a referee kind of role between center and states. So look at that judgment. State of Rajasthan, somewhere in 1977, in this period. So it is somewhat favorable to the states compared to the previous era judgments of opinion of the courts. And moving on, SR Bommai 94. This is an era of regional assertion. It is in this time, look at the action of Supreme Court. Supreme Court says, in SR Bommai case, it says federalism is a basic structure of the constitution. So you can understand Supreme Court is not working in a vacuum. It is working in this changed ecosystem, in an ecosystem where states have started asserting themselves. States have started playing an important role in the transformation of the country because of LPG reforms. In that context, Supreme Court feels federalism is a basic structure of the constitution, as mentioned in SR Bommai judgment. Supreme Court also comes down heavily on misuse of emergency provisions under Article 356. So it is this idea that you should actually have. Okay, it was a clash of personalities, it was a clash of parties, but at the end of the day, till 2014, so this was the trend which it was moving till 2014. Then finally people were bored with a weaker center and a stronger states. People thought if a center is strong, then we can transform India like America. So that was the narrative that was sold to the people before Narendra Modi's elections. And again, people swallowed the story. They gave an overwhelming mandate for a stronger center. And from here onwards, we come to a situation of a strong single party dominance in the parliament, a stronger center. But at the same time, this is nothing compared to center's dominance of the previous era, because a lot of changes have happened during this time. There is no point of going back. A lot of constitutional amendments have been brought out that has strengthened the states. A lot of taxation powers have increased in this period in favor of the states. Supreme Court judgments like S.R. Bommai, Rameshwar Prasad in 2005. Rameshwar Prasad judgment is another judgment related to Article 356. S.R. Bommai is a landmark judgment. Taking it even further, there was a judgment in 2005 called as Rameshwar Prasad judgment, which said that if the governor dissolves without following the procedures, then we will even bring back the assembly back to life. In Constitution, there are no provisions. Okay, Constitution, once you dissolve a state legislative assembly, fresh elections have to be held, and you have to, that is the only way. But in Rameshwar Prasad's case, the court says if the house is dissolved without following the proper procedures, then the court will even bring the house back to its own life. The same house will be even reinstated. That's going another further step in favor of the states. So a lot of such kind of judgments have been given. Moreover, states have now become a reality. The states are no longer some satellites or subsidiaries of the center, like how it used to be in this era. In this era, just for very flimsy reasons, unnecessary grounds, state governments were disturbed. State governments will be dissolved. But that is not a possibility in the present era. So even though we find a centralizing tendency from 2014, you cannot say center's dominance over states have once again come. No, we don't have such tendencies at all. Maybe during COVID we can spot certain tendencies, but even that was not opposed by the state chief ministers themselves. Okay, states themselves have accepted the center's dominance over the states because the center is in a much better position to prevail over, to mobilize resources, to provide logistics, to provide expertise in handling COVID. So states themselves did not feel they did not feel the pinch of center in handling COVID crisis. You can never call this interference of center into states as a threat to federalism or anything. Threat to federalism was whatever was happening in the previous era. Now it's all gone. You cannot say there's any threat or anything, but this is the larger transformation of the nature of Indian state, from a very, very centralizing centers dominating role. It went on to give space to the states for their own existence. And by the time of 2014, the states were dictating to center. Center, even to have majority in Lok Sabha, is now dependent on the various state governments, various regional governments. So center becomes so weak and powerless during the time of Manmohan Singh's time, 2004 to 14. That was the last phase of this evolution of federalism, where the center becomes completely weak before the states, that it becomes so weak that it cannot even take its own actions against a corrupt minister, right? So this is the kind of changes that we actually trace and we find. So we'll study about these changes. That is the purpose of our discussion on center-state relations, right? So we'll study about the conflict between center and states. Then we will also discuss about this emergence of a concept called as cooperative federalism. What is it all about? So this phase is not of much interest. Bygone era. In this era, it was a single party domination in most of the states as well as in center. Congress, Jawaharlal Nehru, Prime Minister. Most of the chief ministers across the states are also Congress chief ministers. So there was no question of chief ministers protesting against the domination of central government, because they are all from the same party. If they have any problems, they will resolve it within party high command. They will not bring it out in the open. State chief ministers will not loudly protest against the domination of center on the states. Nothing of that sort was actually happening. So not a very interesting phase, the first phase, but it is here, this phase, which is of much interest. Okay, so let's find out the reasons for conflict between center and states. Okay, we'll find out the reasons for conflict and why I give this diagram. Okay, why I give this a flow chart or a schematic diagram is to help you with your prelims examination. How will this be helpful in prelims? You get this idea behind in your mind, and you will come across a lot of bodies in your Lakshmikant. You will come across bodies like Okay, so these were all bodies that were set up in the era of conflict, when there was a conflict between center and states, from the era from 1966 to 1990. So this these are bodies. Sarkaria Commission was 1983, submitted its report by 87. So you can find that it is almost at the other this phase, right? This is 1990. Let's say this is 1990. So Sarkaria Commission is somewhat closer to this 1990 onwards. Panchi Commission was in 2000s, I think 2004 or 5. At that time, Panchi Commission will be constituted. Okay. So what are the so can someone tell me what are these bodies? If you have already read these about these in your Lakshmikant, can you tell me what are these bodies and what is the reason why these bodies were all constituted? Sarkaria Commission, Panchi Commission, all these three different bodies. What was the reason? Yes, it was all so as to, these bodies were constituted so as to study center-state relations, to study the conflicts between center-state relations, to find out solutions to make the relationship between center and states even more smoother. Okay, it is with these objectives in mind these bodies were all constituted. But the difference is, these three bodies were constituted by state governments. These two bodies were constituted by the center. Okay. So just remember this in mind. Just remember this. I'll come back to this. I'll come and I'll explain to you about these bodies. But before we get into this, we'll have to find out some more aspects of constitution, some more provisions of the constitution with respect to center-state relations. We'll also have a look at them and then we'll come back to this. Okay. So remember this scheme. Remember this, how federalism has slowly transformed in India. And also remember, these state government appointed bodies belong to this era of conflict. And when the era of conflict is about to end and the cooperation between center and states was about to emerge, that was the time of Sarkaria Commission. See, I cannot say 1990 is the single date from which a complete different era was born. No, these are not some watertight compartments. Okay, you cannot. These are more diffused in nature. So maybe the transformation would have started from 85 to 95. During that phase itself, you can find this slow transformation from conflict to cooperation. So it is in that time frame, Sarkaria Commission was appointed by center to look into dispute areas between center and states. Panchi Commission, as I told you, it is at the fag end of evolution of federalism, that spectrum, where the state's dominance is so much. In that context, Panchi Commission was constituted so as to look into center-state relations. So just keep this in your mind. We will come back to this and we'll have a discussion. Before that, let me discuss with you about constitutional provisions. So, Article 246 talks about legislative competence. Okay, I'll just show you the article. Yeah. Relations between Union and States, Chapter 1, Legislative Relations, Distribution of Legislative Powers. Extent, subject matter, okay. special provisions with GST, all these things, power of parliament. Okay, all right. So what does the constitution say? The constitution in Article 246, it talks about legislative competence. What do you mean by legislative competence? It is the same thing which I just told you now. List 1, list 2, list 3. Executive, parliament, state legislature, state executive, union executive, parliament and state legislature, state executive ordinarily. I think you guys are clear about this. Yes? Can I take it forward? You are clear about this aspect, right? This is what is given under Article 246. Who has the power of legislation on what matters? Okay. So, my question is, can Tamil Nadu State Legislative Assembly, can it make law on list 1 matters? Can we allow Tamil Nadu Legislative Assembly to make any law on army, foreign relations, any such matters? Can we allow? We cannot. So you will find that state legislature can never legislate on list 1 matters. That is a principle. Okay, state legislature But what about parliament? Can parliament legislate on state list matters? Can parliament legislate on state list matters? Is it possible or not? We have ourselves seen an instance during emergency what happens, during president's rule what has happened. We have seen that. Yes, we have discussed that. That is one ground. Parliament can legislate on state list matters. On what grounds? On what grounds? During emergency, so on these 4 grounds, Parliament can legislate on state list matters. Okay, so I'll just explain to you what these are. I think this is something which you know. You don't have to explain it again. What is this? Rajya Sabha passes a resolution. So basically, Rajya Sabha, as you know, is a protector of state's interest. And what if Rajya Sabha itself passes a resolution supported by 2/3 of the members present and voting? With this much amount of support, if Rajya Sabha passes a resolution saying that, okay, in the interest of states, because the country is facing a very, very bad COVID crisis and public health and sanitation is a subject matter of state list. But we, the Rajya Sabha members, we are passing a resolution to allow the parliament to make laws with respect to health and sanitation matters. It would be better if central government takes care of public health and sanitation matters itself instead of leaving it to state governments, because COVID is a national, it's a pandemic. So you cannot have different strategies across different states. So it is better we have one common health formula, health policy to deal with COVID. Maybe Rajya Sabha can pass such a kind of a resolution, supported by 2/3 of the members present and voting. If this happens, in that case also, Parliament can legislate on state list matters. Okay, this is one. Another reason, if two or more states resolve for Parliament to legislate on list 2 matters, if Tamil Nadu and Kerala, if they resolve for both of us, we are sharing a long border between us. So better Parliament provides us with a common health policy, a health law dealing with COVID-19. We don't want to have independent laws. So if state assemblies, state governments, state legislatures, assemblies, they pass a resolution. Okay, the condition is 2 or more states. Minimum 2 states must pass a resolution saying that we don't want to make law on COVID matters. We want the central government to make laws. If Kerala and Tamil Nadu, if they resolve in their state assemblies, pass a resolution by a special majority support, in that case also, the Parliament can make laws on state list matters. But the law that is made by Parliament on state list matters is applicable only to these 2 states, whichever have passed a resolution. That is the difference between these two. Here, it is applicable all over India because Rajya Sabha has passed a resolution. All over India, it is applicable, and Parliament will start making laws on state list matters applicable to throughout the Indian territory. But here, only those states which have passed a resolution asking Parliament to make a common law for them, only to those states the parliamentary law will be applicable. Other states, the law will not actually apply. Okay, so this is a difference that you'll have to observe. So does it mean that once Rajya Sabha passes a resolution, does it mean the states completely forego their power? Do you think the states cannot make any law on these matters? Does it mean so? What happens if Rajya Sabha passes a resolution? What happens? Does it mean the states' power of making laws on COVID matters is completely extinguished? Do you think the states cannot make any laws at all? Yeah. The answer is no. It's a parallel power. Just like how we read in emergency. What did we read in emergency? Emergency under Article 352. What did we see? National emergency. List 2 matters. Parliament plus state legislatures, right? Yes or no? When it comes to legislation on list 2 matters, Parliament will also have the power of making laws on state list matters. In addition to the, as usual, power of state legislature to make laws. In addition to that, Parliament also gets the power. And for state executive, union executive starts directing the state executive. So these are additional powers that the Parliament gets in addition to the powers of the state legislature and state executive, right? So same is the case when if Rajya Sabha passes a resolution also, it means that Parliament can make laws in addition to the power of state legislatures. It is not a replacement power or anything. State's power is intact. But the only difference is, see, let's say Rajya Sabha passes a resolution. Okay. What the Constitution says is, if Rajya Sabha passes a resolution on May 3rd, the power of Parliament will be there for 1 year, up to a maximum period of 1 year. In this period, Parliament can make laws on state matters. So on public health and sanitation also, Parliament can make laws on health, which is otherwise a state subject. That is only for this 1 year period. After this 1 year, Parliament cannot make law. Maybe after 1 year, Rajya Sabha should once again make a resolution, and after that, Parliament can maybe make laws. So during this 1 year, what happens? In this 1 year, I told you Parliament will make law on health. Similarly, Tamil Nadu state legislature also makes laws on healthcare, correct? Parliament makes, Tamil Nadu Legislative Assembly also makes. What if there is a conflict? That is, certain provisions of parliamentary law is conflicting the law made by state assemblies. In that case, what will happen? Which law should be implemented? If that is a question, what will be your answer? It's a very simple question. Yeah, parliamentary law prevails over state law in conflict. That's very correct. So, during this period of 1 year, if at all there is a conflict between the law made by the parliament and the law made by the state legislatures, this law will prevail. So, those parts of state law which are against the parliamentary law will not have any effect. Okay, will cease to have effect, will not be implemented. Only parliamentary law will prevail. Okay, so this is something that you'll have to actually know. And this is the same in the case of emergency also. During emergency being in operation, parliament makes a law. That parliamentary law is in conflict with the state law. In that case, the parliamentary law will prevail. The state's law will not prevail. So does it mean that entire state law will be inoperative if there is a conflict? Does it mean that the state law, Tamil Nadu COVID Prevention Act, assume Tamil Nadu government has made something. Does it mean if there is a conflict, this entire Tamil Nadu COVID Prevention Act itself will go out of force? Does it mean so? The entire act will become null and void. Only those provisions. Wherever there is a conflict, that alone will stand. What do I say? It will not be enforced, or it will not be implemented. So other parts will be implemented as usual. Okay, good. So this is with respect to when can Parliament make laws over state subjects. There are 4 grounds as given in the Constitution. When states themselves make a resolution supported by a special majority, if it is done by Rajya Sabha by passing a resolution, and emergency grounds. The last ground is for giving effect to international treaties. Like India goes and signs a treaty with Bangladesh, okay, for exchange of land enclaves, between Bangladesh and India, okay, transfer of certain pockets of land. So, but land is in state list, correct? Land is a subject matter of state list. And West Bengal government will definitely not make a law transferring land to Bangladesh. It will not make a law. If that is the case, do you think international commitment given by the Indian government should be humiliated? Can it be allowed to be humiliated? It cannot. That is why Constitution itself has given the power in the hands of Union government. If it is an international treaty between Bangladesh and India for exchange of land enclaves, in that case, even Parliament can make a law on land matters. Land is a subject of state list. I think the very first itself is land, maybe. So even on state list matters, Parliament can make law for honoring international treaties and agreements. Just remember this. So whether Parliament can act will lapse after 1 year. Well, Parliament Act will not lapse after 1 year. Only if there is a Parliament Act, will it lapse after 1 year? It will not lapse. It will just continue to be operative. But after 1 year, if there is a conflict between center and states law, then it is a states law which will prevail. Okay, you have Indian COVID Prevention Act made by Parliament. Tamil Nadu COVID Prevention Act made by the state of Tamil Nadu. Okay, Indian COVID Act will also continue to be in operation. But if there is a conflict between center and state law, after that 1 year period, it is the state's law which will prevail, not the center's law. But the center's law will also continue to have its effect. So these are with respect to matters on state list. It will lapse after 6 months since the resolution becomes inoperative as per Lakshmikant. Well, let me just take the Constitution. It says computer to make shall to the extent of incompetency cease to have effect on the expiration of period of 6 months. Wherever there is a law made by parliament which parliament would not, but for the issue of proclamation of emergency, have been competent to make, shall to the extent of incompetency. Okay, just a minute. A law made by the parliament, which the parliament would not, but for the passing of a resolution under have competed to make, shall to the extent of incompetency cease to have effect on the expiration of 6 months as a resolution, except as respect things done. Okay, cease to have effect on the expiration of, okay, extent of incompetency. Okay, so, well, I think Lakshmikant interpretation is something that you'll have to follow for this. So maybe, yeah, what you're saying is right. So, but I'm still not convinced enough because of this word to the extent of incompetency. I'll have to get it clarified. But I can accept what Lakshmikant says. So, what did I say? I said the law will continue to have effect only if there is a conflict between conflicting provisions alone. State's law will prevail. That's what I said, right? Okay. But as per what is given here, yeah, when you see the word incompetency or Lakshmikant's statement, what is given Lakshmikant is right. So the law passed by Parliament after the expiration of 6 months of resolution being in force shall cease to have any effect. Right. So your question is whether Parliament Act will lapse after 1 year. Not after 1 year. It will lapse after a period of 6 months after the resolution has ceased to be in force. Okay. So yeah, this 1 year period, no? After this, here the resolution ceases to have effect. The law will continue for a further period of 6 more months. At the end of 6th month onwards, the law will not have any effect. This is what is given in the constitution. Yeah, so you can follow what Lakshmikant has given. I'm wrong, so this is one mistake and you can probably make a note of it. So when it comes to state list matters, if Rajya Sabha passes a resolution and this is how things are done, the maximum extent to which the law made by the parliament shall be competent is up to a period of 6 more months. All right. Okay. So in addition to this, you should also know, see, these are all with respect to matters on list 2, that is state list matters. What will be the impact? That is what we have discussed till now. We have something more to discuss about concurrent list also. So you have list 1, list 2, list 3, legislative and executive powers. So this is irreplaceable. I'm sure you have understood about list 1. Nobody other than parliament alone can make laws. No state governments can make laws. Here, states and parliament at certain instances we have discussed. What about list 3 matters? List 3 matters, both parliament as well as state legislatures, both of them can make laws, right? let's say forests. So forest is a subject matter of list 3, concurrent list. Both parliament as well as state legislatures can make laws. So parliament makes a law called as Indian Forest Act. State legislature makes a law called as Tamil Nadu Forest Protection Act. There are certain activities like quarrying that are completely prohibited in Indian Forest Act. Tamil Nadu Forest Protection Act allows quarrying. Okay. So don't you think that these provisions are conflicting each other? There is a conflict between the provisions of respective acts. If this is the case, which law will prevail? Which provision will prevail? So who is going to execute these matters? It is the state executive that is going to execute. Tamil Nadu Forest Department is going to execute. So state executive has to follow the provisions of Indian Forest Act, or should it follow the provisions of Tamil Nadu Forest Protection Act? Parliamentary law will prevail. Okay. What the Constitution says is, in concurrent list matters, if there is a conflict, it is the parliamentary law that will prevail normally. But let's say this Tamil Nadu Forest Protection Act, when it was passed as a bill, it was sent to the governor for governor's assent. The governor had reserved it for the consideration of the president. The governor did not himself give his assent. He reserved it for the consideration of the president. And the president has given his assent to this particular bill. Okay. It means that the union executive, head of the union executive, has himself given the assent to this particular bill. If a bill has been reserved for presidential consideration and president's assent is the reason why the bill becomes an act, and such an act has provisions which conflict a central legislation, if this is the case, state law will prevail over the center's law. Okay. So you have both center's law will also prevail in certain instance, state law will also prevail in certain instance. When it comes to concurrent list matters, for state law to prevail over the center's law, it should have received the assent of the president. That is the only criteria here. Okay. This is what is given under Article 254. Yeah. Sonia Gandhi instructed to Punjab on farm laws issue. Right. Well, yeah, see, but farm laws is actually, what do I say? Sonia Gandhi instructed to Punjab and all, no, not to Punjab, to Rajasthan and to other states, because agriculture is a subject matter of state list. There the issue is something different. Let's not confuse that. Agriculture is a subject matter of state list. So state governments have their own powers to control agriculture. So there is nothing to do with concurrent list matters. Okay. So this is what is given in Article 254. This is with respect to legislative powers. Now we'll move on to execution. So you have found out, I think by now you would have understood how strict the lawmaking powers have been kept in the Constitution. Normally, one cannot interfere into the other's functions. Only under certain certain circumstances can one lawmaking body do another lawmaking body's function. So we have discussed that. But what about this executive matters? Legislature, executive. List 1, list 2, list 3. Correct? Can I say, can state executive perform the functions of union executive? List 1 matters. Army, defense of India. These are list 1 matters. Okay, these are matters of union list. My question is, can the state executive implement these matters? That is my question. I'm not asking about law-making functions. So what if I ask you, can the state legislature make laws on these matters? Your answer will be, no, it cannot be made. My question is, can state executive execute matters on these functions? Can Tamil Nadu police take care of defense of India or not? That is my question. Just think and tell me. Yes, it can execute, yes. Because law-making functions are very strictly delineated. Okay, one cannot interfere into the other's functions. But executive matters are not so strict. Let's say, okay, some terrorists from LTT terrorists, so they come through seas and they attack India. Okay, so they attack India. If that is the case, do you think Tamil Nadu government should keep on waiting for the entire army from the north to come here and to take care of defense of India? Does it mean the states should wait? It's not necessary. If this is the case, we cannot run the government. We cannot administer the country. That is why executive matters are not so strictly delineated. It can be implemented by either of the agencies. So states can execute list 1 matters. Similarly, center can also execute list 2 matters also if it is necessary. Okay. So Tamil Nadu state police can be used here for that purpose. But it cannot happen just like that. But for that to happen, first, the governor of Tamil Nadu should first get the consent of the president, that is the union executive. Okay. So it is on these, sorry. Now, union government wants this border to be protected. What it does is, the president will consult with the governor of Tamil Nadu. President will talk to governor. Do you have sufficient police force? Are they free, or do they have some other work? Are you capable of dealing with this crisis? Do you have the necessary automatic weapons and all? It is only if governor of Tamil Nadu agrees, okay, yes, I can deal with it. So basically, the state governments cannot be forced to do their work by the president, by the union executive. State governments cannot be pressurized into taking care of the responsibilities of the union government's functions. So this can be done. State executive So this is one ground, okay. The first ground is governor being the head of the state executive. He should be okay with implementing the defense of India functions. He cannot be pressurized by the president or otherwise. So this is in agreement with the governor of that state. Even otherwise, there is also a second ground based on which also a state executive can implement union functions. What is the second ground? The second ground is without the agreement of the governor. That can happen if Parliament makes a law. If Parliament makes a law, in that case, without the consent of the governor also, defense of India can be given in the hands of Tamil Nadu state executive, and state executive can be asked to implement those functions. So it's a democratic process, deliberative process. So parliamentarians will assess the strength of the state governments, whether they are capable or not. If they are not capable, additional funding will be made in the law. So that is why this has to be a different way. Parliament route is different from executive route. Here, president himself was giving the functions to the governor because president feels it is important. As of now, for immediate response has to come from the state. So president might even ask the governor to take care of those functions also. Okay, but the other route is Parliament, by creating a law, can also entrust the functions of union in the hands of the state executive. So these are the grounds on how union functions can be executed by the states. Similarly, states' functions can also be executed by the union. That is, governor has to get the permission of the president. Governor asks the president, "Are you capable of doing my functions?" Okay. So, based on the consent of the president, the state executive functions can be transferred to the union executive also. So, we don't have too much of rigidity when it comes to executive matters. But when it comes to legislative matters, yes, we do have a lot of rigidity associated with who can legislate. Okay, but executive matters are interchangeable. They can be implemented by either of the agencies. So these are the ways how constitutional principles are provided. I'll just show you those provisions. President may, with the consent of the government of the state, entrust conditionally on the government of office in relation to any of the matter to which the executive power of the union extends. This is the example I told you. Defense of India functions being given in the hands of state governments by the president, or it can also be done by a law made by parliament. Okay, so this is also another issue. So I conferred. Yeah, this is nothing. Clause 3 only says that if at all defense of India functions is given to state government, Tamil Nadu government is given the function of protecting borders, protecting and safeguarding the border. In that case, money also should be given to them. They should not be left abandoned. Okay, so I don't think this is from exam point of view. I don't think this point is necessary or anything. But so who will decide how much money should be given to center to the states? It's the Chief Justice of India who will be the final authority to decide how much money should be given to the states. Okay. So this is power of the states to entrust functions to the union. That is, the governor of the state may, with the consent of the government of India, give away its functions. So this is what is given in Constitution under Article 258 Amendment A. Okay. Are you clear about this? Can we proceed further? Legislative and executive powers distribution, how does it work, how it can be interchanged between the authorities? Are you all clear? Can we proceed further? Yes. Okay. Okay, we'll just take a short break for 5 minutes, and we'll continue. See, another important area when it comes to center-state relations is to understand the constitutional scheme of sharing of revenues between center and states. So there are a lot of articles which you have to have in mind. We have to be very clear about what the constitution says with respect to revenue distribution between center and states. I will just discuss about them. Okay. So which all articles are relevant for our discussion? These are all some of the articles which are important for our discussion when it comes to financial provisions in the constitution regarding center-state relations. Okay, so we'll have a discussion of all these articles. So I'll just give one in one sentence what these articles are all about. Okay, Article 280 talks about Finance Commission. 282 talks about discretionary grants. 275 talks about grants in aid. 270 talks about devolution. 269A talks about IGST. 246A talks about SGST. 268 talks about stamp duties. 269 talks about interstate trade and commerce. Just remember this one word. I'll explain to you. You can just make a note of these. Okay. Can I move on? Can I proceed? Have you noted it down? Yes. Okay. Two 246A article talks about trade and commerce, GST on trade and commerce within a state. Let's say inside Tamil Nadu, if trade and commerce happens, do you know what are the different GST that is levied on trade and commerce that happens within the state itself? Do you know what is the GST that is levied? You have any idea about it? CGST and SGST. Yes. So who determines how much should be the CGST, how much should be the SGST? Who determines it? It is the GST Council. That's correct. That's right. GST Councils determines that. Okay. So this SGST part is given to the states, right? Center has no control over this amount. Whatever is collected is just given to the state governments, transferred. Center has no control over this amount. But this part, you can say that it is collected by the center. Okay. So GST Council will determine CGST, SGST rates. It's a recommendatory body. So it will suggest, and Parliament will make a law fixing for automobile components. CGST is 9%, SGST is 9%. GST Council recommends it, which will be made as a law by the Parliament. Okay. So can I ask you a question here? Can the state legislatures make law with respect to GST? Do the state governments, state legislatures have powers to make laws with respect to GST? What will be your answer? Is it yes or is it no? The answer is yes. That's very correct. Because Article 246A says so. So don't think that only center can make laws with respect to GST. States also can make laws for regulating ancillary matters. Let's say, how should e-bills be generated, and who is the checking authority? So all that will be made as a law by the respective state governments also. So understand, state governments as well as center have power with respect to making laws over collection of GST. 246A is very clear about CGST and SGST. This is given to the states. This is collected by the center. Okay. What else? Article 269A. 269A, as I told you, talks about IGST. Okay. Integrated goods and service tax. So how is it distributed? It's given to center, has a certain share. States also have a certain share. State. Which state has a certain share? Here the good is, here the commodity is produced in Tamil Nadu and sold and consumed in Tamil Nadu. That is why you have CGST, SGST. 269A is about interstate trade and commerce, like IGST. It is basically, it's interstate trade and commerce only. It's basically Tamil Nadu automobile component is produced and it is sent and it is sold in Bihar or Uttar Pradesh. Such a kind of a transaction. Okay. So here, yes, center gets a certain share. State, in the sense, it is the consuming state, right? That will also get a certain share. So this part is also sent to the states. So basically, center does not have any control over this part, but a certain part of IGST is under the control of center. Center receives money. Similarly, CGST, center receives money. This is one source of revenue for the center. Okay. What are the other sources of revenue for center? You have to look into list 1 of 7th schedule. If you have a look at it, you will come to understand the enormous taxation powers that are given in the hands of the central government. What are they? Taxes on income other than agricultural income. So basically your income tax, house rent, salaries. When I get a salary, I'll have to pay as my income tax. I get a house rent, I have to pay tax on that. I do my own business also, I have to pay tax on that. Those are all what comes under taxes on income other than agriculture. Duties of customs. So if I import anything, I'll have to pay tax for the government. If I export also, I'll have to pay any tax, including export duties. Duties of excise on following goods. These are the goods which are not under the GST regime. So that's why it is exclusively given here. On petroleum, when you buy 1 liter petroleum, certain amount that you pay goes to the center as duties, because the power under list 1 is there in the hands of central government to excise, to levy duties on these matters. Cigarettes, tobacco products also. Then you have corporate tax on corporates, corporate organization. That is what is corporation tax. Tax is on capital value of assets. Capital gains tax, shares, right? So if you look at it, you have so many such taxes which are given here. It's very, very huge amount of powers, taxation powers given in the hands of union government. All these are also some of the powers given in the hands of union. Okay. So these money is also collected by the center. collected by the center. In addition to that, you have 268 and 269A. I'll just explain to you what these are. What is this 269A? Let us say tea is cultivated in these part of the country, Assam, Meghalaya. We have tea cultivation going on there. Okay. So let's say that tea is taken through West Bengal, brought to Chhattisgarh, Maharashtra, and it is sold in Bombay. Bombay is a maybe hub of tea trade. Okay. So if it is brought through these states, let's say West Bengal is involved, and let's say maybe Bihar, Jharkhand is also involved, then Madhya Pradesh, then Maharashtra. Okay, all these states are involved in this, in this, in this tea trade. Okay. So, what are the facilities given by these state governments? These governments are ensuring good road network. They are ensuring safe commutation, safe commute of goods, right? Because police is a state subject matter. If a state government invests in its police bureaucracy, in police machinery, and if it provides adequate protection, only then truck drivers will be having this peace of mind to transport their goods. Otherwise, anytime somebody can come and steal their entire consignment. Some rowdies can come and they can demand bribes, and they can threaten the lorry drivers. You give me 1 lakh rupees or I'll steal the entire consignment. If that is the case, then the trade and commerce will come down. So basically, but in reality, who is reaping the benefits? Who is going to get the benefits of this trade? The traders in Bombay, the producers in Assam, Meghalaya. So why should these states have to suffer, have to spend money so as to give profits for Bombay traders and tea plantation owners of these places? They are suffering, they are spending money. So don't you think that they have the right to levy taxes on these products? Yes or no? Yes. So if tea is brought through these states, don't you think it is the right of Jharkhand and Maharashtra to impose a certain percentage of the total consignment as a tax? Because they are providing police security, they are providing very good road networks. Yes or no? Do you think it is right? Is it fair for the state government? Yes, it is. Right? Okay. So let's say Maharashtra levies a duty of 5% of the tea value. Whatever tea is brought in, 5% of the total tea, okay, 5% of the total tea value you have to pay as a tax. Similarly, all these states also levy 5%. So what is the total burden? Already by the time tea reaches here, all these these kind of expenses itself has pushed the cost by 20% or 30%. And if these costs are also going to be added to the final cost, do you think Indian tea will be profitable? Already we are facing strict, difficult competition from Sri Lankan tea. Do you think Indian tea will be able to compete in this competition if already the price is marked up by 20-30%? Not possible. Okay, own right to free movement will be curtailed then. Well, but there is no such thing called as a right to free movement. Where is it given? Is it given anywhere in the constitution that there has to be a right to free movement? I know what you're asking about. There is a provision given in Article 301, 302 where it is declared that interstate trade and commerce is free. But interstate trade and commerce across India shall be free, but subject to certain restrictions. Those restrictions are given in the successive articles. We will come to that, but I don't think that throughout India trade and commerce must be free. Not at all necessary. It can be regulated on public interest. We will come to that. But please answer my question here. Will the tea trade survive? It will not survive. if the tea trade is going to fall down because of these individual states having their own duties, they are levying their own tax rates, because of that, don't you think it is the nation itself which is going to suffer because of that? National GDP might fall down. Yes or no? Please answer. Yes or no? Because of the action of individual states, it is the entire nation which is going to now get affected. Because so much of livelihood, so much of processing industries, all these are going to get affected. That is why it is necessary that these kind of exorbitant duties must not be levied by the state governments. States should not levy such excessive taxes and duties. That is why Article 269, 269, this is not 269A, sorry, 269. 269A is that IGST. Article 269, it says that the power to impose taxes on interstate trade and commerce, this will be in the hands of center. Center will decide what should be the rate of taxation. Center will keep national interest in mind. Okay. Center will levy what is the rate of tax. So center, if you leave it to the individual states, the states are least bothered about national concern and all these things. They just want to make as much money as possible. So they know that even if I levy 5%, now these people have no other option, they have to pay it. That's why the center will determine what should be the rate of tax. But who will collect it? Collected and retained by the states. The state excise department will be there. The state commercial taxes department officials will be in charge of that. So center will determine the rate. State governments will just collect the amount. They will just keep that amount with, yeah, and they will keep the amount with themselves. Okay. So this is one kind of a tax which is given in the constitution. So you can find that states have a constitutional arrangement, a constitutional provision for having taxes out for enjoying the benefits, for enjoying the taxes that arises out of interstate trade and commerce. That is the subject matter of Article 269. Okay. Similarly, we have something else called as Article 268. 268 is very specific. It is very specific about stamp duties. Stamp duties on financial instruments. What does it mean? Let's say you want to sell your shares to somebody else. Okay. So I sell my shares to somebody else. There is a transaction tax which will be levied on that. Okay. On such sale of shares or debentures. Or if I have to pay a payment to my friend for 2 lakh rupees, I go and I write a check in his name. So he goes and encashes it in the bank. Even for that, a tax will be levied. Okay, these are what are called as stamp duties. So these kind of stamp duties will also be determined by the center. You cannot leave it to the state governments. Then each and every state will have their own tax duties. You need to have uniformity so as to allow financial transactions to be smooth across the country. To have some uniformity, that is why center will levy the taxes. Center will determine how much of money, how much should be the stamp duty. But if at all a transaction happens within that particular state, the state government will get that money. Okay. So 268 talks about financial provisions for stamp duties in the hands of the states. 269 talks about financial provisions for interstate trade and commerce. Okay. So how much of taxes can be levied by the center? Center will just determine the rate of tax, but it will be collected. Sorry, I made a mistake here. It is collected by the center and assigned to the states. I'll just explain to you. Because it will be one single tax, not in each and every state. A state will levy 3% for Maharashtra, 4% for Maharashtra, 3% for Madhya Pradesh. That is not how it is levied. Center will calculate what is the optimal tax rate. Center will calculate and it will come at a figure 8%. 8% of the total tea value will be made as a tax. It will be collected by the center at the destination, maybe in the Bombay It will 8% of the total value will be collected by the center. Center will determine how much of this 8% should be given to Maharashtra, to Madhya Pradesh, Jharkhand, because it knows how much of the road network, what is the level of security that is being provided. All that center will have an idea about, right? So that is why Article 269, the rate of tax is determined by the center. The tax determined is collected by the center, and once the money is collected, center will assign the taxes to the respective states. Okay. This is what is the substance of Article 269. 268 talks about stamp duties. Center will levy the tax. States will collect. States will retain the collected tax. Here it is nothing to do with interstate trade or anything. Okay. If I take a check and if I go and deposit in the bank, everything is happening within this particular state. So wherever I deposit it, there will be a particular amount which will be taken from my pocket as a tax, as a stamp duty. That will be retained with the state of Tamil Nadu itself. Okay, there is no need to transfer it to center and center transferring it back to state. That is not needed. This is the difference between 268 and 269. Are you guys clear about this difference, 268 and 269? Yes or no? These are the aspects of the constitution which you will definitely not be able to understand when you read Lakshmikant. Okay. If you have doubts, you can please ask me again. Are you clear about this 268 and 269? What is the difference between the two? Yes? So I'll proceed further. What about others? Are you guys also clear? Can we move forward? Can we move forward? Okay. So as you can see, the money is already given to the states. Center is only levying the tax here. Center is collecting, but whatever is collected, center does not keep any of the tax with itself. It hands it over to the state governments. Here, the taxes are itself collected by the states only, not by the center. The difference. So you can see that taxes collected under Article 268, 269. So this is all given to. So who's going to have custody of all these money? Who's going to have is it the center or is it the states? Okay, can you please repeat Article 269A? Yeah. 269A is the IGST concept. IGST. In IGST, it's about interstate trade and commerce. Tamil Nadu's manufactured product is taken to Maharashtra and it is sold there. So 18% of IGST is levied. Out of 18%, 9% is given to central government, 9% is given to state. Which state? Is it given to Tamil Nadu or is it given to Maharashtra? It is a consuming state. So Maharashtra will be getting the 9%, right? That is what is given under Article 269A, right? So all these money is given to center or is it given to the states? Someone, please. Yes, what is the answer? Center or state? Center or state? Where is this money going to? Money collected under 268, 269, 246A? Yes, it is all going to go to the states. Center is not having these money with itself. Okay, but center has zero share here, but center has a share of GST. Center's share of 246A, center's share of 269A. This is all in the hands of center. Okay. Now we will move on to Article 270. We have discussed a few articles. We have discussed 246A, 269A, 268, 269. We are done with this. Now we will move on to Article 270. What does Article 270 say? Article 270 says, it talks about a concept called as divisible pool of resources. (269A) states share of IGST will go to the states. That's correct. States' share of IGST will go to the states. That's correct. Center's share will be in the hands of center. 270 talks about a concept called as divisible pool of resources. So what is this? What does Article 270 say? 270 says center's share of these taxes along with center's tax potential, whatever taxes center has earned out of list 1 taxation powers. Center has so much of taxation powers: income tax, customs, duties, securities transaction taxes levied on sale of shares. That is also a power of center. So all such revenues that is earned by the center, it is brought under corporation tax in list 1. That is also a part of this divisible pool of resources. Okay. So all these, whatever money is earned by the center, okay, as per the taxation powers under list 1, this total amount excluding cess and surcharge. Cess and surcharge is excluded from this. So whatever other revenues the center has earned apart from cess and surcharge, all other revenues earned by the center will have to be divided between center and states. Okay. So you're excluding 268. That is because the money is given to the states. 269 money is given to the states, so excluding that. State's share of GST is also excluded. Center's share of GST as per those 2 articles, along with all the other different revenues that are raised by the center as per its taxation powers as per list 1 of the 7th schedule, all that has to be shared between center and states. This is what is called as a divisible pool of resources. You exclude cess and surcharge. So what is this, sir? What is cess and surcharge? See, basically this is just a tax on tax. These are shortcut methods used so as to temporarily bridge some shortfall in revenue. Let's say central government suddenly realizes right to education is so important, or Swachh Bharat is so important. Suddenly it comes out with a mission called as Swachh Bharat mission. But where is the money to fund the scheme? Immediately you cannot raise income tax, right? You cannot raise income tax. You cannot keep on increasing duties. So Constitution has a mechanism. Cess and surcharge is a constitutional mechanism. I think 271 or 272. I'll have to check what article it is. (271), yeah. Notwithstanding anything, Parliament may at any time increase any of the duties or taxes referred to in those except by a surcharge. That is, Parliament has the power to impose surcharge for the purpose of union, and the whole proceeds shall form a part of the consolidated fund of India. So only Parliament can raise surcharge. It can impose extra tax on taxes. So what Parliament will do is, in order to fund the Swachh Bharat mission, Parliament will decide, I need to have another 30,000 crores for this financial year. So how can I mobilize? So what I will do is I'll add 10% of surcharge on income tax. Already I'm paying 5 lakh rupees as income tax every year. In addition to that, I'll have to bear another 10% of that 5 lakh rupees of the income tax that I pay. So these are all some quick shortcut methods for government to raise money for a specific purposes. Tax is tax is supposed to be shared between center and states. There are no end purposes of a tax. Tax can be used for any purpose. It can be used to pay salary. It can be used for infrastructural development, anything. But a cess and surcharge have a very specific end purposes. Swachh Bharat cess charge. Swachh Kalyan cess charge, right to education cess, okay, something like that. You have to just know that cess and surcharge are taxes on taxes, can be levied by the parliament, need not be shared between center and states. This is exclusive kitty of the central government. Need not be shared between center and states. Okay. So we'll come back here. Maybe when you go to your home, just try to go through it once if possible. If you have already understood, you don't even have to go through it. But just for the sake of going through it, you can go through it if you feel like necessary. Okay. Divisible pool of resources. Again, explain. Okay, all right. I'll explain to you. Don't worry. 268, 269. Look at this. Duties levied by union but collected and appropriated by the states. That is, the tax rate is kept. It's determined by the center, but it's the state governments alone which will collect the tax, which will keep the tax to themselves. Center is nowhere involved in tax collection here. But here, as I told you, center collects the taxes also, and then it gives to the respective states. Center does not have anything with itself. Okay. And what are the items that is also given here? You can go through it. 269A is this IGST, interstate trade or commerce, goods and service tax. So how is it treated? I have just explained to you that here. 270, all taxes and duties referred to in the union list. Okay, list 1, all the taxation powers, except the duties and taxes referred to in Article 268, 269 and 269A. Okay. Surcharge on taxes and duties referred to in Article 271. Okay. So this is also excluded. And any cess levied for the specific purpose under any law made by the parliament. Okay. So shall be levied and collected. All right. So we have this given here. So the 246A, tax levied and collected by the union under clause 2 of Article 240. That is center's share of 246A, center's share of Article 269A. So, I mean, you can go through it if you want, but I hope you have understood the concept clearly. What all money is a part of divisible pool of resources. So somebody wants me to explain divisible pool again. I'll explain it one more time because of a network issue, because this is a tricky area which otherwise you will definitely not be able to understand. So I'll explain one more time. Article 270 talks about divisible pool of resources. Why do we call it as a divisible pool? It is going to be divided between center and states. This is the entire money that is collected by the government. So what are the sources of money for this divisible pool? As I told you, it is the center's share of GST. Under Article 246A, 269A, plus all tax collections under List 1 of 7th schedule, okay, minus cess and surcharge. This is the entire money that is now a part of what is called as divisible pool of resources. This is going to be shared between center and states. How is it going to be shared? It is going to be shared as per the formula given under Article 270. What does Article 270 say? Article 270 says such percentage, okay, shall be distributed between center and states, distributed among the states in such manner and such time as may be prescribed in the manner provided in clause 3. What is this clause 3? This is the method, okay? Until a finance commission has been constituted, prescribed by the president. After a finance commission has been constituted, prescribed by the president by order after considering the recommendations of finance commission. So what does it mean? It means, and president has constituted finance commission in 1950. The finance commission, parliament has constituted a finance commission act 1950, based on which a finance commission has been constituted in 1950 itself. Okay, so since then the method of method of sharing revenues is based on the recommendations of finance commission. So what does Article 270 say? It says that revenue shall be distributed between center and states. Revenue shall be divided amongst the states. This is what is called dividing revenue between center and states is called as vertical devolution of taxes. Sharing revenues, this states component will be shared among different states. This is what is called as horizontal devolution of taxes. So how is it all done? It is done as per the formula given under clause 3 of Article 270. I have just shown you that. It says that President will make an order. Out of the total money, how much should be shared between center and states? But the president's order is not his own discretion. He will not himself make an order. No. If that is the case, then do you think states will get any money? It will not. So that is why President has been provided with a body called as Finance Commission. Finance Commission's recommendations, on the basis of recommendations given by the Finance Commission, only on the basis of such recommendations, President will make an order about how much money should be shared between center and states and between the states. So this is the mechanism given under Article 270, Clause 3. So now we have to know about a body called as Finance Commission. Okay. So does surcharge under Article 271 include cess also? Well, we'll look at Article 271. Well, it does not. Actually, there should be a fine differentiation between the meaning of cess and surcharge. 271 talks only about surcharge, but divisible pool of resources does not include cess, does not include surcharge. Okay, but both are the same. Both are the same. The purpose is the same. The purpose is a tax on a tax. Okay, you may call them as cess. Surcharge is basically a tax on a tax. Okay. Cess is for a very specified designated purpose. Swachh Bharat cess, right to education cess. So if it has a very specific purpose, it is called as a cess. If it does not have a specified purpose, it can be called as a surcharge. But both of them are a tax on a tax, tax of 10% on the income tax. That is the concept. Okay. So both cess as well as surcharge are not to be shared in the divisible pool. It is exclusive resource of the center alone. So so is it fine? Are you guys clear about divisible pool of resources? Are you very, very clear about what is shared between center and states? What is not shared between center and states? So IGST, states share and all, it is not shared. It is only the center's share of GST, those aspects which are actually shared between center and states, and all other taxes that are collected by the center as per its taxation powers in list 1. Those are all to be shared between center and states. Okay. So we'll now look into a body called as Finance Commission, because Article 270 says President has to distribute the resources based on his order after considering the recommendations of the Finance Commission. So we need to know about this body called as Finance Commission, that is given under Article 280 of the Constitution. Yes. What does Article 280 say? The President shall, within 2 years from the commencement, and thereafter at the expiration of every 5th year, he will constitute a Finance Commission, which shall consist of a chairman and 4 other members to be appointed by the President. Okay. The Constitution says the President, after 2 years from the commencement of the Constitution, that is 1952, he has to constitute a Finance Commission. From then onwards, every 5th year once, every 5 years once, 5 years once, second Finance Commission, third Finance Commission, it has to be constituted. Okay. And the composition is also given in the constitution, it has to have chairman and 4 other members. But what is the qualification of the chairman? What is the qualification of the other members? It is all not given in the constitution. That is why Parliament has made a very separate act for that purpose. It is called as Finance Commission Act 1950. It is on the basis of Finance Commission Act 1950. Today we have what is the salary, allowance, what is the educational qualification of all the different members, what are the duties, all these are given in Finance Commission Act 1950. Okay. So understand, it is a constitutional duty of the president to constitute a finance commission every 5th year. Okay. So have this in your mind. So what are the functions of finance commission? That is the important aspect here. Okay, Parliament may by law determine the qualifications for members. So Parliament has made Finance Commission Act. It shall be the duty of the commission to make recommendations to the president as to, there are some 4 functions given here. Okay, I'll give you easy method of remembering them, because this is the same wording which will be given in your Lakshmikant also. When you read Lakshmikant also, you will be finding it difficult. What are they given? It's simple. Subclause A of clause 3 of Article 280. What does it say? Distribution between union and states of net proceeds which are to be divided between them under this chapter, and the allocation between states of the respective shares of such proceeds. What does it mean? This is actually what is divisible pool of resources. Distribution between union and states of the net proceeds of the taxes. Keep it simple. Net proceeds means taxes that are collected. But there is a constitutional definition of the meaning of the word net proceeds. It's given in different article. I'll come to that. Okay, just forget the word net proceeds. Distribution between the union and the states, the taxes which are to be divided between them under this chapter, and the allocation between the states of the respective share of such proceeds. Are you able to understand the text of this? It's basically talking about the taxes that has to be shared between center and states. Vertical devolution between the states. How much taxes should be shared? That is horizontal devolution. Okay. So this is related to Article 270. Okay. Subclause A of clause 3 is related to Article 270. So the first function of Finance Commission is to give a formula for vertical devolution and horizontal devolution of taxes. That is what is given here. Okay. The principles which should govern the grants in aid of revenues of the states out of Consolidated Fund of India. Make a mark here. This is related to Article 275. Now we will move on to Article 275, and we will try to discuss what is there in Article 275. These two are with respect to panchayats and municipalities, with urban local bodies and PRIs. Okay, this we can hold it. We can keep it for a separate discussion. So you don't have to be worried about these two. Maybe in next 2-3 classes you will come across these. Right now you have to know about these 2 functions of Finance Commission. One of the most important functions of Finance Commission is to decide on horizontal devolution and vertical devolution of taxes as per Article 270. The other function is what is given here. Principles which should govern grants in aid of revenues of the states out of Consolidated Fund of India. This is related to Article 275. I'll just show you what is that. So this is what is given in Lakshmikant as statutory grants. Why is it given as statutory grants? Statute means a law. Who makes a law? It's a Parliament which makes a law. So Parliament can decide such sum as the Parliament may by law provide shall be charged on the Consolidated Fund each year as grant in aid of revenues of such states as the Parliament may be in need of assistance, and different sums may be paid. Okay, all that is okay. I'll just explain to you in simple terms. What Article 275 says is, some states are very poor states. The states like Odisha, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, these states are very poor infrastructure wise also, human resource wise also. All resources are poor there. So to break the states out of the vicious trap of poverty, you have to pump in a lot of money into those states. Only then, because otherwise it's like a cycle. Low resource, human resource infrastructure, low productivity. Low productivity means low tax capacity. Most of them will not even go beyond the tax limits. Low tax paying capacity. If they have low tax paying capacity, low revenue for the government. Low revenue for the government. It cannot spend money on health, transport, education, nothing. So the cycle is going to continue. That is why somewhere it has to be broken, right? Low resources. So the center can interfere. It can increase the resource availability. How can it do so? It can do so by giving what are called as grants in aid of revenue of these states. That is what is mentioned in Article 275. So grants in aid of revenues of these kind of states can be given. It can be taken out from the Consolidated Fund of India, can be given to these states for their development. So what is the money? What are the states that are eligible? It will all be decided by the Parliament, by law. That is why it's given as statutory grants in your Lakshmikant textbook. But not necessary that Parliament alone should decide this, because Article 275 itself provides an alternative method also. What is that? Article 275 says that until provision is made by Parliament under clause 1, powers conferred on the Parliament shall be exercisable by the President by order. Okay? So it is given. But President cannot make his own order, provided that after a finance commission has been constituted, no order shall be made under this clause by the President except after considering the recommendations of the finance commission. Are you clear? It says that grants in aid can be given. For what purposes? The purposes are also given. Raising the level of administration in these areas, to improve the administration in tribal areas. Okay, Article 275 is very specific. It is not for all poor states. It is for states that have tribal population, to improve the quality of administration in these tribal areas. It is for that purpose Article 275 has been kept in the Constitution. It is a special safeguarding, enabling provision for the betterment of scheduled tribes in India. It is to improve the quality of administration. The center can pump in funds. It either can be done through a parliamentary law, or it can even be done by the order of a president. But Article 275 is very clear. It says president order means it is not his own discretion or anything. It has to be based on the recommendations of Finance Commission. So do you understand? This is the function of Finance Commission. Finance Commission will decide how much of grant and aid must be given by the president to these kind of states. So based on that, the president issues order. That is exactly what is given in 280 as the function of the Finance Commission. When you look at Article 280, the principles which should govern the grants and aid of the revenues of the states out of consolidated funds. So this is related to Article 275. This is related to Article 270. So keep these in your mind. You will never be able to forget them. This is the function of Finance Commission. Okay. So President has already made orders on as per this article. Have you heard of Ekalavya schools, Ekalavya model residential schools? Have you come across that? Have you ever heard this schools called as Ekalavya model residential schools, EMRS? Yes. So what is the purpose of these schools? Yeah, it is for developing tribal children. So central government has established these Ekalavya model residential schools in all the tribal states. Where I was working, I have seen many such schools which are much, much better than the normal state government run schools. So this is one such initiative by the center under Article 275. President has made an order so as to spend money out of Consolidated Fund of India for educational development of tribal children across these tribal states. So the president, before making such an order, will have to follow the recommendations of the Finance Commission of India. And this is the work of Finance Commission, because Article 280, when you read Article 280, Clause 2, I've just shown you, right? Two functions of Finance Commission. One is with respect to Article 270, other one is with respect to Article 275. there are also two more functions of finance commission which is relevant with which you can link with local government bodies. We will discuss it later. Okay, when we discuss about local bodies, I'll make a reference to this article. If Parliament has made a law with respect to grants in aid, should Finance Commission factor in? No. There, Finance Commission's recommendations are not necessary, because, see, if Parliament is making a law, it means that extensive discussions and deliberations, opposition voices, everything has been heard, and after that, Parliament is coming up with a law. So then it is a very objective process. But if a president on his own is deciding how much revenue should be distributed, that is where the problem lies. That is why you have to bring in objectivity. That is why Finance Commission as an independent constitutional authority can bring in objectivity to revenue sharing. That is why we have Finance Commission as a body kept in the constitution. So if Parliament is making a law, where their Finance Commission is not necessary at all. Parliament itself, after discussions and deliberations, will decide how much money should be transferred. Okay. So Finance Commission is there to give recommendations to the president. That is the idea here. All right. So this is with respect to Article 275 and 280. So we have covered most of the articles. We have one more article to cover, which is Article 282, which is called as discretionary grants. A very powerful article, even though the length of the article is so small, but a very, very enabling article for the development of the country. Okay, so we'll just understand what is this. So you see, what Article 282 says is, center can spend money even for list 2 matters. State governments can even spend money on list 1 matters also. Any of the governments can spend money for any matters. There should not be any limitation. Okay. So that is why center is able to, that is the reason why Green Revolution was even taken forward. Why Green Revolution became a success was because of Article 282. Most of the centrally sponsored schemes regarding family welfare, health, all these things are because of Article 282. Because the power is given to central government to spend money out of Consolidated Fund of India. Any money can be spent for any purpose, irrespective of whether it is in list 1 or list 2 or list 3, any money can be spent. So, when you read your Lakshmikant, you will come across Article 282 is given as discretionary grants, and some explanation of Planning Commission will also be given. Planning Commission is no longer relevant to you, neither for UPSC purpose or anything, but it's okay to understand something about what was this body called as Planning Commission, why was it created, it's okay to understand about that, because Planning Commission was a constant source of conflict between center and states. Center and states were always at conflict with each other because of the role of Planning Commission. So you need to understand something about Planning Commission here. What is this Planning Commission? Why did we get into a planned economic process? Can somebody tell me why did we adopt planning as our method of development, economic development? Any answers? Socialism. Socialism can even be, socialism is a goal. What is socialism? First tell me, what is socialism? What do you understand by socialism? Very correct answer. Lack of resources. That's the exact answer I require. Yeah. Inspiration from Soviet model and all. That's okay. We have adopted a somewhat a Soviet kind of planning. Yeah, but the idea here is lack of resources. We have very, very scarce resources. And do you think parliamentarians are capable enough to decide how to allocate resources, whether healthcare is important, whether transportation is important, or whether nuclear energy is important? Do you think parliamentarians, do they have the economic training, Do they have the training, educational background to decide on such important questions? Already, India is a poor country. We have very scarce resources. In 2020, 2021, out of total population, not even 10% are paying income tax. Imagine in 1950, probably 1% of the total population might be paying income tax. Only very such less amount of money was available. And it should be very, very carefully planned and utilized. You have to take the country forward. So that is why we decided that each and every penny that is spent should be spent on a very careful manner. It should be spent with the sound economic principles. And for that, we created an economic body of statisticians and economists, experts who can advise the government based on their studies, based on their experience of various international models of development. They can decide what model we should be adopting, should we be changing such models, and what sectors must be prioritized. Education should be prioritized for the next 5 years, or healthcare should be prioritized for the next 5 years, or should it be skill development? So to have this orientation, to have, just like your UPSC preparation, you have a 1 year plan, a 1 month plan. You need to know where you're heading towards, right? So it is to have such kind of a vision. A body called as Planning Commission was set up. It is to give expert advice to policymakers so as to make the best possible utilization of scarce resources. This is the idea. Okay. So Planning Commission as a body, it was created, and there was a lot of issues with respect to the functioning of Planning Commission. A lot of allegations were put against Planning Commission. So we'll discuss that tomorrow. What I would want to bring out here is money can be given by the center even for purposes which are outside the purview of union list. Even for state list matters, money can be given by the center for expenditure, and center has been doing it until 2014. We were doing it on the basis of recommendations given by the Planning Commission. But from 2014 onwards, since Planning Commission has been disbanded, now we don't have the body called as Planning Commission. We have a very different body called as Niti Aayog. Okay, we will discuss it later in tomorrow's class. How is Planning Commission different from Niti Aayog? And what were the reasons why state governments started getting angry at Planning Commission? That is also something we'll discuss tomorrow. Okay. So Article 282 is also one method of finance transfer from center to the states, done as per the discretion. Which, say, if center decides housing is our priority, it can start spending money on that. Nothing can limit the powers of center to spend money. Okay, so just remember this. These are some of the constitutional provisions regarding finances. Okay, I hope you can go home, you can revise it once from your textbook, from the examples which I have given. Go through it. Tomorrow we'll discuss about Finance Commission, Planning Commission, conflict between center and states, interstate disputes, resolution mechanisms given in the Constitution. And if there are any constitutional provisions left out, we will discuss them also. Okay. So I think I'll stop here. Any doubts? Yeah, thank you. I'm fine. I hope all of you are also fine, and please take due precautions against COVID. Don't go out unnecessarily. Okay. So better to take good health concern, take care of your health at this point of time, because if you get COVID, probably 2 weeks of your time will be completely gone from your hands. You'll be totally. So have you guys already got infected with COVID-19? Are you yet to get infected? Have you already developed antibodies and all? Are you all still co-virgins? Okay. All right. Yet to get infected. So then it's even more crucial that you are quite concerned about it, because at least till your prelims you should not get infected. Okay. So can you please explain the difference between Finance Commission and Planning Commission, conflicts between them tomorrow? Yeah, definitely I'll explain it tomorrow. Okay, thank you. We'll meet tomorrow. So no doubts about today? Are you clear about whatever has been taken? Even if you have a broader understanding of this is what it is good enough. You have to just go home and read through your books. You will get the clarity. Okay. All right. Thank you.